A man drove 1,000 miles to save a dog. What happens next is incredible. The engine was still ticking when Sam's phone buzzed on the passenger seat for the third time that night. He glanced at the screen, eyes bleary from too many hours on the road and not enough sleep. The number was unknown. Normally, Sam would have ignored it. He wasn't exactly in the best headspace to handle random calls at this ungodly hour. But the dog in the back seat let out a low whimper, as though urging him onward. Something about that sound, that pleading look in the animal's eyes, made his chest tighten with a mix of resolve and dread. He swiped the phone screen with a trembling thumb, answering in a hushed voice. "Hello." For a long moment there was silence. Then a soft voice, barely audible above the crackle of the line, spoke. "Are you Sam, the one who helps dogs?" His heart pounded. 1,000 miles he'd already driven. 1,000 miles dedicated to a single desperate cause. He closed his eyes, inhaled the thick, damp night air. "Yes," he said quietly, "that's me." The woman on the other end exhaled a breath of relief. "I got your number from the shelter inn. They said you traveled across states to help. My name is Lucy." Her words hitched, and in that tiny pause between them, Sam caught a hint of tears. "I've got a dog here in terrible shape. She's old and nobody else will take her. The vet said she might not make it long if she doesn't get help, urgent help. They told me you were the only one who could possibly do something." Sam pressed his forehead against the steering wheel. There was a rush of guilt in his chest. How many times had he said to himself that he was done, that he couldn't possibly handle another heartbreak? But there was also that old, familiar spark of defiance that refused to let an animal suffer, not if he could do anything about it. "Where are you?" he asked. "Little town near New Orleans," Lucy said, voice trembling with hope. Sam's gaze flicked to the back seat. He had a dog there, 8-year-old husky mix with a bandaged leg, found whimpering by the side of a deserted highway in Arizona. He'd already spent the last few days driving across scorching deserts, crossing state lines, skipping meals just to get the husky to a specialized rescue center. He was mere hours away from delivering this dog to a place that could perform life-saving surgery. That had been his plan. Then Lucy's words shattered any semblance of rest he might have found afterward. His throat felt tight. "New Orleans is over 1,000 miles from where I am now," he said. "I'm in Amarillo." "I know," Lucy replied. "I was told you might say that, but there is no one else. They won't help her. They don't think it's worth it. The rescues are overloaded. The shelters, they won't put the resources into an old, ill dog." She took a shaky breath. "I'm begging you. I don't know how much longer she has. I don't know what else to do." Sam let the phone slip from his ear. He heard Lucy's muffled voice continuing, the growing desperation in her tone. His eyes burned with unshed tears. For as long as he could remember, he'd shared a particular bond with dogs, a strange kind of kinship that had once kept him going when everything else in his life crumbled. Even now, he couldn't really articulate why he did what he did. It felt like an unpaid debt to the universe, a vow made long ago in the darkest moment of his life. He picked the phone back up. "Lucy, I'll try," he said, and no sooner had he spoken the words than the dog in the back seat perked up its ears. "But I need to drop off this dog first. Then I'll come to you." Lucy breathed a shaken sigh of gratitude. "Thank you, I can't tell you how much." He ended the call, letting the phone fall against his thigh. Through the mirror he locked eyes with the husky mix, who seemed to stare back with cautious optimism, as if to say, "I know you can do this." So Sam started the engine and drove into the night, toward the promise of saving yet another life. By sunrise, he had delivered the husky to the specialized rescue facility. It was a modest, cinder block building on the outskirts of a mid-sized town. A volunteer met him at the door, their face lighting up with respect and relief that Sam had made it. She gave him a quick summary of the surgery schedule, thanked him for his dedication, and urged him to rest. But rest was not on Sam's agenda. Heart pounding, he hurried back to his car, started the engine, and pointed himself east. 1,000 miles to New Orleans. He had no idea how he'd stay awake that long, no clue where he'd get gas money, or if his rusted old sedan would even survive. But one step at a time, 1 mile at a time, he told himself. Over the years, that mantra had become the bedrock of his rescue missions. That was how he ended up crossing the sprawling plains of Texas with less than 3 hours of restless sleep under his belt. Every signpost whipped by like a blur. The road stretched out as if it might go on forever. Heat shimmered over the asphalt, creating mirages in the distance. His phone kept buzzing with calls from Lucy, her voice laced with growing desperation. "It's getting worse," she said during one call. "She's not eating. The vets around here are telling me to consider euthanasia. I won't." Sam pressed the phone to his ear, weaving through traffic. "Don't give up," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. "I'm on my way." One exit after another, he pressed forward. His mind drifted to a time when he was a young boy, sitting in the corner of an old barn, arms wrapped around a stray dog named Bandit who had wandered onto the family property. Bandit had been half dead from starvation, and Sam's parents had said, "We can't afford another mouth to feed." Sam had pleaded with them, tears in his eyes. They eventually caved. After that, Sam and Bandit became inseparable. When Sam's home life fell apart, his father leaving, his mother lost in depression, Bandit was the only stable presence in his life. Perhaps that was when his devotion to dogs began. Perhaps that was why, decades later, he found himself risking everything to give each dog a second chance. At some point, hunger caught up with him. He stopped at a roadside diner, devoured a plate of scrambled eggs and black coffee. The waitress noticed his tired eyes and sweaty brow. "Long drive?" she asked with a sympathetic grin. Sam nodded, sipping the steaming coffee. He didn't elaborate, he hardly had the energy. She gave him a small wave of encouragement and let him eat in peace. Before stepping out, he scribbled a phone number on a napkin and left it on the table. "If you ever find a stray that needs help, call me," he whispered under his breath, though no one was there to hear it. He refilled the tank, used the last of his emergency cash to pay for gas, and got back on the highway. The sun was scorching overhead, but inside he felt a chill of urgency. Lucy's updates were dire. The dog, a senior Labrador mix, was refusing to get up. She hardly moved her head when Lucy approached with bowls of water or fresh food. The dog was trembling in pain. Time was running out. Sam stepped on the accelerator. Mile after mile flew by in tense silence, broken only by the occasional crackle of the radio or the ring of his phone. The sky turned golden, then pink, then surrendered to the sprawling blackness of night. Sweat gathered along Sam's temples. He forced himself to stay alert, cranking the window open to let in the cool evening air. At around 11 p.m. his phone rang again. Lucy's voice was frantic, nearly breaking. "She's barely breathing," she said, tears evident in every word. "The veterinarian here says she needs advanced imaging, medication. She's got a mass in her abdomen. They can't operate because of her age. But the rescue center you're taking her to, they might help, right? They have the resources." Sam glanced at the almost empty passenger seat. His phone was propped in the cup holder on speaker. "They do," he promised softly. "They specialize in critical care for older dogs. They'll do everything they can to save her. Just hold on." He ended the call, hands trembling, and merged onto a smaller highway that led deeper into the night. The horizon was a black void dotted with distant pinpricks of light, small towns, perhaps. In the silence, he thought about how many times he'd felt this rush of desperation. How many times he'd promised an owner or rescuer that he would arrive in time. The stakes always felt insurmountable, the pressure crushing. And yet, each rescue mission had its own reason to exist. Each life was a tapestry of memories and love, deserving of more than a lonely death in a cold shelter. The next day, as the sun rose over the next state line, Sam's body felt like a bundle of raw nerves. His shoulders ached. His eyes stung from lack of sleep. Once again, He pulled into a small gas station, rummaging through his wallet and pockets, trying to find enough spare change to add more fuel. A sweet-faced attendant recognized his haunted look. She asked him if he was okay, if he needed any help. He forced a tight-lipped smile, mumbled a thanks, and set his sights back on the road. He was prepared to push himself. Another 500 miles to go. The meager money he had left wasn't enough. So, with trembling hands, he called an old friend, a fellow dog rescuer he'd met through a volunteer mission years ago. Answered groggily. I need your help, Sam started, voice quivering with exhaustion. He explained the situation, how far he still had to drive, how little money he had left, how the dog was hanging by a thread. Didn't hesitate. Tell me where to send some gas money, he said, and Sam felt tears sting his eyes again. Within an hour, had wired him just enough funds to keep going, maybe enough for a cheap motel if Sam had to rest. Another lifeline, another reason not to give up. He powered on, phone in hand, occasionally pressing it to his ear to get updates from Lucy. In the background of one call, he heard wheezing, weak, shallow panting. Sam's stomach twisted. She's in so much pain, Lucy wept. Her eyes, they just look so sad. I think she's giving up. Don't let her, Sam pleaded. Talk to her, let her know someone is coming who can help. But a lump formed in his throat, because he knew that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, you can't outrun death. The final leg of the journey felt like a fever dream. His eyes drooped at the wheel, and to keep himself awake, he recalled the day he rescued a pregnant stray shepherd named Raven. She'd been in labor on a deserted roadside, and Sam had spent the entire night by her side, driving her to a 24-hour vet. He remembered how bright and piercing her eyes had been, even amidst her pain. He remembered the moment Raven reached out a trembling paw, touching his arm as if to say, "Thank you for seeing me." That memory gave him a burst of energy to keep going. Eventually, the roads led him toward the edges of New Orleans. He could smell the damp, swampy air, feel the humidity pressing against his skin. Vibrant colors flashed in the distance. Neon signs, street lamps, the nightlife of a city that never truly slept. That's where Lucy was, in a small apartment on the outskirts, waiting for him with a dog whose name he still didn't know. He steered into Lucy's neighborhood at dusk. Humid air laced with the scent of magnolia, a swirl of fear and anticipation built in his chest. Would he be on time? Could they still help her? He spotted Lucy standing outside a rundown building with peeling paint, hugging herself. Her eyes were rimmed with fatigue. She raised an arm, waving him down. Sam pulled up to the curb. The moment he stepped out, Lucy rushed over, tears shining in the streetlight. She's inside, Lucy said, voice trembling. Thank you for coming. I didn't think you really would. So many people said they would help, then never showed up. Sam offered a weary nod. He followed Lucy through the narrow hallway. The place smelled of mildew and sadness. Lucy's door was ajar. Inside, the living room was cluttered with makeshift bedding for the dog. A single standing lamp cast a soft glow over a form lying still on the floor. Sam took a step forward, his breath catching in his throat. The dog, a lab mix with gray around the muzzle, lay on a pillow, her breathing shallow and labored. Her eyes flicked up to Sam with the faintest spark of curiosity or relief. Her coat was patchy, riddled with lumps and sores. She looked ancient, nearly skeletal. If he didn't know better, he would have thought she was on the brink of death right then. Lucy knelt beside the dog, gently stroking her head. Her name's Cookie, she said with a broken smile. She's had a hard life. She was abandoned when her owners moved away. The neighbors said she'd been living on scraps for years. Sam's heart twisted. He crouched down, resting a hand on Cookie's flank. His voice was soft. Hey girl, I'm here now. We're gonna try to help you. He spent the next few minutes examining her, though he was no vet. What he saw was grim, raw sores on her paws, a possible tumor in the abdomen, eyes dull with pain. Lucy bit her lip, tears threatening to spill again. What do we do? She asked, voice quivering. Sam pulled out his phone. checking the coordinates for the rescue facility in Baton Rouge that specialized in complicated geriatric cases. It was almost another 100 miles away. Fear pounded in his temples. He'd already driven so far, and Cookie looked too weak to even stand. "She needs medical attention right away," he said, voice tight. "We have to get her to the special center I contacted, a New Beginning dog rescue. They're expecting us. It's the only place that has the resources for a dog in her condition." Lucy glanced at Cookie, then at Sam. You'll take her." He nodded, heart hammering. "Yes, but we need to be careful, she's fragile. I don't know how she'll handle the drive." Lucy swallowed hard, eyes filling with gratitude. "I'll come too. I don't want her to be alone anymore." Sam hesitated for a moment. He didn't know Lucy well, just fragments of her story gleaned from rushed phone calls, but he could see that this rescue had become just as important to her. "All right," he said, voice steady, "but we have to leave now." They carefully lifted Cookie onto a makeshift stretcher, an old sheet Lucy had prepared. The dog let out a weak whine but didn't resist. Once they got her into Sam's battered sedan, Lucy settled in the back with her, cradling Cookie's head on her lap. Sam climbed behind the wheel and started the engine again. His entire body felt like lead, but the adrenaline of the moment kept him focused. The drive to Baton Rouge was fraught with tension. The highway was dark, and Lucy kept whispering soothing words to Cookie. Sam glanced back in the mirror whenever he could, watching to make sure Cookie's chest still rose and fell. For a harrowing moment, it seemed to stutter. Lucy gasped, pressing an ear to Cookie's ribs. "Please," Lucy sobbed under her breath. "Hold on, hold on." Sam's knuckles went white on the steering wheel. Fear mingled with a flicker of hope. The center staff were expecting them. They had the equipment, the knowledge. If they could just get Cookie there alive. At last, the fluorescent sign for a New Beginning dog rescue came into view, a modest building tucked behind tall pines. Sam pulled up to the entrance. A pair of vet techs rushed outside, having waited for their arrival. One carried a rolling gurney, while another beckoned them inside with urgent gestures. Lucy helped Sam guide Cookie onto the gurney. Her body felt limp, but her eyes fluttered open for a moment as if registering the new space. Sam's heart hammered as he watched the techs whisk Cookie away into a back room, barking instructions at one another. "Wait here, please," one of the staffers said, shutting the door behind them. The hallway was stark and quiet. The overhead lights flickered. Sam and Lucy stood side by side, not speaking. Lucy wiped tears with the back of her hand, arms trembling. Sam didn't know what to say. Every second that passed felt like a lifetime. After what might have been minutes or hours, the door reopened. A tall veterinarian, wearing a weary but determined expression, approached. Her name tag read Dr. Martinez. "She's in very critical condition," Dr. Martinez began, glancing between Lucy and Sam. "We've stabilized her breathing for now, but she needs immediate surgery to remove or at least examine the mass in her abdomen. It's large and likely malignant." Lucy squeezed her eyes shut. Sam asked, voice hoarse, "Is there a chance?" The vet sighed. "There's always a chance. The mass is advanced and Cookie is very frail. We'll do everything we can, but you need to be prepared for any outcome." A quake rippled through Sam's body. He nodded, tears stinging his eyes. Lucy let out a small cry, biting her lip until it turned white. "She deserves a chance," Sam murmured, voice choking. "Please do whatever it takes." Dr. Martinez offered a small, sad smile. "We will," she said, then hurried back into the surgery suite. An eternity seemed to pass in that waiting room. Lucy paced back and forth, hands shaking. Sam slumped into a plastic chair, head in his hands, exhaustion crashing down on him like a tidal wave. There was no telling how the surgery would go. The only certainty was that they'd tried. They'd done everything in their power to get Cookie this far. In the silence, Lucy eventually sat beside him. Quietly she began to speak, voice thick with emotion. "I didn't tell you why this meant so much to me," she said, cheeks damp from crying. "But I lost my mother a year ago. She'd been sick for a long time and I felt so helpless. After she died, I found Cookie wandering the streets. She looked so lost and alone. My mother loved dogs. I couldn't let Cookie just fade away like that." Her voice hitched. "I guess I saw a chance to help her in a way I hadn't been able to help my mom." Sam's throat tightened. He understood that feeling all too well. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Lucy wiped at her eyes. "My friend said I was crazy for trying so hard to save an old dog, but I just couldn't give up on her." Sam reached out, gently squeezed Lucy's shoulder. "You did the right thing," he whispered. They fell silent again. The waiting felt like torture. Every minute without news sent Sam's mind spiraling through worst-case scenarios. He'd seen it before: dogs too far gone, tumors too large, or hearts too weak to survive. He knew the heartbreak that came when the vet emerged with a solemn shake of the head. Yet, in the midst of the crushing fear, there was the tiniest flicker of hope. After all, miracles had happened before. He'd seen dogs bounce back from the brink. He'd seen the world offer second chances. And Cookie, with those soulful eyes, might just be one of the lucky ones. At long last, the door swung open. Dr. Martinez stepped out, removing her surgical cap. Her face was hard to read, but Sam's heart leapt into his throat. Lucy jumped to her feet. "Well?" Sam asked, voice cracking. The vet took a measured breath. "We managed to remove the mass," she said, choosing her words carefully. "It was complex. There was a point where we almost lost her." She paused, letting the gravity of that statement settle in. Lucy's eyes welled up again. "But she made it through the surgery. She's in recovery now. It's going to be a long, uphill battle. We're starting her on a specific course of medication. Her vitals are stable, for now." Relief flooded Sam, and his knees nearly buckled. Lucy pressed a hand to her mouth, tears spilling over. Can we see her?" Lucy asked, voice trembling with hope. Dr. Martinez nodded, a gentle smile ghosting her lips. "For just a moment. She needs rest, but yes, you can see her." They followed the vet into a recovery ward lined with kennels. Soft whines and muffled barks emanated from the corners. Cookie lay on thick blankets, hooked up to an IV and monitoring equipment. Her breathing was shallow but consistent. When Lucy and Sam approached, Cookie lifted her head a fraction of an inch. Her eyes flicked open, meeting Sam's gaze. Something inside him shattered and reformed at that moment. Those eyes, clouded with age and hardship, still held a spark of life. Sam reached a trembling hand through the kennel bars, gently stroking Cookie's muzzle. "You did it, girl," he whispered. "You held on." Lucy knelt next to him, tears trickling down her cheeks. She pressed her forehead against the kennel, whispering soothing words. Cookie's tail gave the faintest wag. For the first time in what felt like ages, Sam let himself believe in the possibility of a happy ending. Over the next few days, Cookie remained at a new beginning dog rescue, her condition carefully monitored. Lucy hardly left her side, sleeping on a chair in the waiting area. Sam, physically and emotionally spent from the long journey, managed to collapse in a small motel room nearby, paid for by a few more of generous donations. But even in that tiny, musty room, Sam found no true rest, forever worrying if Cookie would slip away during the night. Each morning, he returned to the rescue center, bracing himself for updates. Dr. Martinez was cautiously optimistic. "Her vitals are improving. She's on medication to manage pain and prevent infection. Her appetite is picking up a bit. Still, with a dog this old, complications can arise at any time. We're staying vigilant." Lucy spent her days singing soft lullabies to Cookie or reading old children's books out loud, anything to comfort the recovering dog. Sam watched from the edges, heart overflowing with an almost paternal affection for them both, two souls who had refused to abandon hope. On the fourth day post-surgery, Cookie stood up, all on her own. It was a slow, shaky process. Her legs trembled. Lucy let out a startled cry of delight. Sam rushed forward, carefully supporting Cookie's side. In her eyes, he saw something resembling gratitude. If a dog could smile, that was it. "She's fighting," Lucy whispered. "She wants to live." Sam nodded, swallowing a lump in his throat. Through the glass window of the center, he saw staff members turning to watch, small smiles on their faces. For many of them, seeing a dog too old or too weak was an everyday occurrence. Some made it, some didn't. But for the ones who did, every success felt like a miracle. A week later, Cookie was strong enough to walk short distances on her own, though she still required constant monitoring. Her fur, once dull and coarse, began showing signs of improvement thanks to proper nutrition and care. The sores on her paws were healing. Sam looked on, astonished by her resilience. Lucy stood by, tears of joy slipping down her cheeks. One afternoon, Dr. Martinez gathered them together. The test results from Cookie's mass had come back. It was cancerous, she said, but we were able to remove it in time. We can't guarantee it won't return, and there may be other health complications down the road. But for now, she's stable. With proper aftercare and medication, she could have months, maybe even years of a good life ahead. Lucy broke into a smile so bright it lit the entire hallway. Sam felt a warm wave of relief, an almost dizzying sense of accomplishment. He recalled the moment Lucy had first called him, voice shaking with fear, and how remote the possibility of this day had seemed. Now, Cookie had a genuine shot at life. Dr. Martinez continued. We'd like to keep her for observation a while longer, maybe another couple of weeks, just to be safe. After that, you can bring her home if that's what you want. Or we can arrange for a foster home if the cost of medical care is too high. Lucy looked at Sam, her eyes shimmering with emotion. I want to take her home, she said softly. Then almost shyly she turned to the vet. I'll figure out a way to afford her care, I promise. Take your time, the vet replied. We'll connect you with some resources that can help. In the days that followed, Lucy and Sam forged an unlikely friendship through shared gratitude and relief. Sam spent part of his days helping around the rescue center, walking other dogs, assisting with feedings, using what meager knowledge he had from his many volunteer stints. The staff admired him for driving 1,000 miles just to get Cookie here in time. They listened to snippets of his story, how he'd helped dogs for years, sometimes dangerously close to burning himself out. Late one evening, as Sam rested on a bench outside the center, Lucy appeared, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to him and sat down, sighing in contentment. How many dogs have you saved? Lucy asked quietly, eyes fixed on the night sky. Sam tilted his head, squinting at the stars. Hard to say, he replied. A few hundred maybe, but you never really know which ones make it to adoption or live out long, happy lives. Some do, some don't. Each one matters, though. Lucy nodded, sipping her coffee. I never understood how much animals could mean to me until Cookie. Maybe it's because I saw my mom in her sick, vulnerable. Maybe because I felt so powerless before, and this time I had a chance to do something. Sam placed a comforting hand over Lucy's. You saved her, he murmured. I might have driven the miles, but you're the one who fought for her every day, refusing to let her go. She looked away, tears threatening once more. You saved her too, Sam, she whispered. You could have said no. You could turned away like everyone else, but you didn't. He smiled softly. I just did what anyone with a conscience would do. I can't stand seeing a dog suffer when there's a chance to help. Lucy turned to him, eyes full of admiration. That's what makes you different, Sam. Most people can't drop everything and drive 1,000 miles at a moment's notice. You did. And I'll never forget that. In the quiet that followed, Sam felt a surge of complicated emotion. He never sought praise for what he did. In fact, he carried a burden of guilt for all the dogs he couldn't save. But maybe, just for this moment, it was okay to feel proud. The day came when Cookie was well enough for discharge. The mass had been removed, her strength returned in small but hopeful increments, and she'd started to wag her tail more often. Lucy had arranged her apartment, setting up a cozy corner for Cookie with plush bedding, toys, and easy access to water. Sam hovered nearby as Lucy went over final instructions with the vet. Daily medication, Dr. Martinez said, handing Lucy a small bag of pills. Lots of rest at first, gentle walks as she gains stamina, follow-up appointments every couple of weeks, and call us if you see any concerning changes. Lucy nodded, clutching the bag of pills to her chest like a lifeline. I will, she promised. Sam knelt beside Cookie. The old lab mix blinked up at him, tail tapping the floor. He rubbed behind her ears, heart swelling with pride. You keep fighting, girl, he said softly. You hear me. Cookie licked his hand, a gesture that nearly broke his heart with tenderness. Lucy knelt beside him, resting her head on his shoulder. Thank you, she whispered again. Any time, Sam replied. And he meant it. Time seemed to accelerate in the days that followed. Lucy kept Sam updated with pictures and stories of Cookie's progress. He stayed in town a little while longer, partly to make sure Cookie was truly stable, partly because his battered sedan had developed engine trouble, a casualty of the 1,000-mile sprint. So while the local mechanic tinkered under the hood, Sam found himself a new daily routine. Early visits to Lucy's apartment, bringing coffee and dog treats. He'd watch with amazement as Cookie ambled around the living room, wagging her tail. Each step was stronger than the last. Lucy joked that Cookie was eating like a horse, but in reality, the dog was just finally getting enough nutrition to thrive. Their small circle of concern and hope began to expand. Neighbors noticed. One particularly curious older woman began asking questions about Cookie and Sam's rescue missions. Another neighbor, who had once tossed scraps to Cookie when she was a stray, approached Lucy with tears in her eyes, apologizing for never calling for help sooner. Lucy forgave her, explaining that everyone does the best they can, and that the past was the past. Meanwhile, Sam couldn't ignore the empty ache in his wallet. He had to figure out his next move. His life was a never-ending series of rescue missions, funded by sporadic donations, side jobs, and the occasional stroke of luck. He'd never had a stable home, drifting wherever dogs needed him. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of desire to settle, just a bit, and find a way to do more, to help on a bigger scale without constantly living on the brink of exhaustion. One humid afternoon, Sam found Lucy on the apartment's front steps, reading a care pamphlet for senior dogs. Cookie was lying at her feet, enjoying the warm sun. Lucy waved him over. Hey, she called, smiling. Cookie's tail thumped in greeting. I was just reading up on therapy dogs. Did you know seniors can make great therapy dogs if they have the temperament for it? Even if they're old, they can still bring a lot of comfort to people in hospitals or care homes. Sam sat down beside her on the step, gently patting Cookie's head. I've heard of that, he said. Some older dogs have this calming presence. They don't jump around as much, but they radiate gentleness. Lucy's eyes sparkled with an idea. I'd love to train Cookie to be a therapy dog once she's stronger. You know, take her to assisted living facilities. Maybe we can brighten someone else's day, just like you and this rescue center brightened hers. Sam grinned, feeling a rush of admiration. That's a beautiful idea, he murmured. He glanced at Cookie, whose calm gaze belied a wisdom that only an older dog could possess. I think she'd be perfect for that. They shared a warm silence, each lost in thoughts of what Cookie's future might hold. A future that was, not too long ago, anything but certain. Life has a way of weaving hope and heartbreak side by side. Just as Cookie's recovery continued, Sam received another phone call, an urgent message from a rescue volunteer in a different state. Another dog, another desperate situation. Sam felt torn. Did he really have it in him to embark on another marathon drive? His car was fixed, but his spirit was still weary. Yet, the thought of a dog left to suffer made his decision for him. He told Lucy he'd be leaving soon. She looked crestfallen, though she nodded in understanding. You have to do what you do best, she said softly. These dogs need you. Sam let out a slow breath. I'll keep in touch, he promised. And I want updates on Cookie's progress, lots of them. Pictures, videos, everything. Lucy laughed, tears brimming in her eyes. Count on it. On his last day in town, Sam dropped by Lucy's apartment to say goodbye to Cookie. The old dog rose to greet him, tail waving in slow arcs. He knelt, wrapping his arms around her in a gentle hug. "Take care, sweet girl," he whispered. "You keep proving everyone wrong about how strong you can be." Cookie responded with a soft lick on his cheek. Lucy handed Sam a small envelope. "It's not much," she said, blushing. "Just a little money we collected from a few neighbors, people who heard Cookie's story and wanted to help." Sam's chest tightened, a swirl of gratitude and humility. "Thank you," he murmured, voice thick. He didn't want to accept it, but Lucy insisted. "We all wanted to say we appreciate what you did," she explained. "Consider it gas money for your next rescue." He nodded, tucking the envelope into his jacket pocket. Then, with one last look at Cookie, who seemed to beam with the kind of quiet dignity only a survivor could possess, Sam turned and walked to his sedan. The engine coughed to life. Lucy and Cookie stood in the doorway, side by side, as he pulled away. In the mirror, he saw Lucy's hand raised in a final wave. A lump tightened in his throat. He'd arrived in New Orleans with an urgent, life-or-death mission. Now he was leaving with a renewed sense of hope, a reminder that compassion can spark miracles in the most unlikely of places. And though he still faced an uncertain future, Sam knew that somewhere down the road, a dog would need saving, and he'd be there no matter the cost. Months passed. Sam found himself traversing deserts, mountains, and farmland. He coordinated rescues with old friends, picked up odd jobs to pay for gas, and slept in his car more often than he cared to admit. Still, whenever he felt the crushing weight of the world, he'd look at the photos Lucy sent him. Cookie in a bright pink harness strolling through the park. Cookie lying happily on the couch, a stuffed toy between her paws. Cookie greeted an elderly man at a care home, her tail wagging as though she were half her age. Each new photo was a testament to the power of a second chance. Sam kept them all in a folder on his phone labeled Miracles. One evening, after a grueling day of travel, Sam stopped at a rundown motel. He opened his phone to see a message from Lucy. Cookie had her therapy dog evaluation today. She passed. Attached was a video of Cookie wearing a little vest embroidered with the words "therapy dog in training." Lucy's voice was brimming with excitement as she narrated Cookie's calm, friendly interactions with patients at a senior center. Sam watched with tears in his eyes, warmth flooding his chest. Against all odds, the dog that nearly died on a filthy apartment floor was bringing comfort and joy to people who needed it most. That night, Sam slept more peacefully than he had in months, lulled by the knowledge that his 1,000-mile drive had changed more lives than just one. But life, as Sam had learned, was never a straight line. Months turned into a year, and one day Lucy's messages stopped. Sam tried calling her, worried something had happened to Cookie. For weeks there was no reply. Fear gnawed at him. Has Cookie's cancer returned? Had Lucy run out of funds for her care? Finally, a text arrived, short and cryptic. "Sam, can you come? I need your help." Attached was a photo of Cookie lying on the floor, looking frail. Her face was older now, her eyes sad. Sam's heart pounded. He didn't hesitate, despite the fact that he was halfway across the country. He drove through the night, fighting the same fear he'd battled a year ago. Would he be too late? When he arrived, Lucy was waiting outside her apartment. She looked tired, her face etched with worry. She explained that Cookie's health had taken a sudden downturn. She'd grown lethargic, refusing food, and the vet suspected a recurrence of the cancer. They took Cookie to the same rescue center in Baton Rouge. Dr. Martinez, looking older herself, greeted them with a solemn nod. After examining Cookie, she confirmed what Sam and Lucy feared. The cancer was back, spreading rapidly. Surgery was no longer an option. Cookie might only have weeks left. Lucy broke down in the corridor, sobbing into Sam's chest. Cookie lay nearby, tail thumping weakly whenever Lucy or Sam stroked her. "I can't lose her," Lucy whispered. Sam's eyes filled with tears. "We'll do whatever we can," he said quietly, though his voice shook. Dr. Martinez suggested hospice care at home, a way to keep Cookie comfortable, surrounded by love in her final days. Lucy agreed, still wiping tears. Sam offered to stay for as long as needed. And so, the dynamic shifted. Instead of a heroic rescue, Sam found himself helping Lucy usher Cookie through her final chapter with dignity and peace. They gave her medication to ease the pain. They fed her favorite meals, soft chicken, peanut butter treats, though her appetite was small. Lucy slept beside Cookie every night, stroking her fur, whispering that she was loved. Sam stayed in a nearby motel, visiting daily, lending emotional support. Cookie seemed to sense that her time was short, yet she remained gentle and calm, her eyes reflecting a quiet acceptance. On some days she'd perk up, wag her tail, and greet Sam with a spark of the old determination. Other days, she barely lifted her head, lost in a haze of exhaustion. During one of Cookie's better moments, Lucy took her for a slow walk in the park, just a few yards really. But Cookie sniffed the air, relishing the sunlight on her face. Sam snapped a photo, capturing Lucy's tearful smile as Cookie leaned her head against Lucy's leg. It was a moment of pure, unspoken love. When the final night came, Cookie lay in her favorite spot by the window, breathing shallowly. Lucy and Sam sat on either side of her, each holding a paw. Outside, the sky was filled with stars, just like on that night when Sam first arrived in New Orleans. The air was thick with summer humidity, but all Sam noticed was the painful thud of his heartbeat as Cookie's breaths grew ragged. Lucy spoke in a voice trembling with both sadness and gratitude. "Thank you, Cookie. You showed me love is worth fighting for. I'm so proud of you." Sam blinked back tears, gently kissing the top of Cookie's head. "You changed so many lives," he whispered, "mine included." Slowly Cookie's eyes fluttered shut. Her chest rose once, then fell. Lucy let out a soft gasp. Sam held his breath, heart pounding. Then there was only stillness. A hush fell over the apartment. Lucy's sobs broke the silence. Sam wrapped his arms around her, tears sliding down his cheeks. Cookie had passed, peacefully, surrounded by the two people who loved her most in this world. The next few days were a blur of raw grief and quiet reflection. Lucy arranged a small memorial in her backyard. She buried Cookie beneath a blooming magnolia tree, placing a simple stone marker that read, "Cookie, forever loved, forever free." Sam stood beside her during the service, tears mingling with the warm breeze. A few neighbors came to pay respects, each sharing memories of seeing Lucy and Cookie walking around the neighborhood. A sense of unity formed, a reminder that even in death, Cookie brought people together. Lucy sobbed into Sam's shoulder as they said their final goodbyes. "She had such a good life, at least at the end," Lucy whispered brokenly. Sam nodded, voice catching. "She lived more in this past year than she probably ever had before. She knew love. She gave so much of it back." In the weeks that followed, Lucy and Sam navigated the emptiness Cookie left behind. Lucy said she felt Cookie's presence in every corner of her apartment, expecting to hear the soft click of nails on the floor or to see those soulful eyes waiting by the couch. Sam understood her pain deeply, having said goodbye to countless dogs over the years. But Cookie's loss cut deeper than most. She'd been part of a miracle, a testament to what compassion and determination could achieve. On the morning Sam planned to leave again, Lucy handed him an envelope. "I was going through Cookie's therapy dog photos," she said, eyes red from crying. "I made copies for you." Inside were snapshots of Cookie at nursing homes, brightening the days of patience. Another showed Lucy and Cookie in that local park, side by side in the grass. Yet another caught Sam in the shot, kneeling by Cookie's side outside the rescue center, triumphant smiles on their faces. Sam gently flipped through them, tears clouding his vision. "Thank you," he whispered. Lucy placed a hand on his arm. "Thank you for driving 1,000 miles to save her," she said. "It changed everything." He looked into her eyes, struggling to speak. In the end, he just nodded. She hugged him, and for a moment they clung to each other, united by a bond forged in compassion, loss, and the unwavering belief that every dog deserves a chance. As Sam started his sedan, engine rumbling softly, he glanced up to see Lucy standing on the sidewalk. The place was the same where he'd arrived with Cookie in dire need of rescue so many months ago, but everything felt different. A season had changed in both their lives. Cookie had seen to that. He pulled away slowly, giving Lucy a final wave. The road stretched before him, full of unknowns. But in his pocket he carried the photographs of a dog who had the odds, a dog who found love in her final year on Earth. He also carried a simple truth in his heart. Compassion can bridge impossible distances. Sometimes it only takes one person to say yes, to take the leap, to drive 1,000 miles into the unknown. He thought back to that first frantic phone call from Lucy, the husky rescue before that, and the countless other journeys in his past. Each one was etched into him like scars on a roadmap of kindness. Cookie's story, her miracle, would be the beacon that pushed him forward when the road got rough, when the next dog's survival seemed hopeless. He would remember how a fragile, abandoned senior lab had found a reason to keep going, had become a light in others' lives, and had quietly left the world wrapped in warmth and love. "Thank you, Cookie," Sam thought, "for reminding me why I do this." And so Sam drove onward, tears still drying on his cheeks, a bittersweet ache in his chest. He had no destination in mind, no clue what the next rescue would look like. But he knew with absolute certainty that if someone called him in the middle of the night, voice trembling with desperation over a dog that no one else would help, he would answer. He would drive as far as it took, because now he was sure. Even if the road to saving just one life was 1,000 miles long, he would travel it again and again without hesitation. In a world that often feels dark and indifferent, all it takes is a spark of compassion, a man behind the wheel, a phone call of desperation, a dog on the brink, and a fierce refusal to let go. That spark can ignite a miracle, shape a story worth sharing, and leave an indelible mark on every heart that hears it. And that is exactly what happened when a man drove 1,000 miles to save a dog named Cookie. And everything that happened next was nothing short of incredible.